Hi, Year 3. Oh, Jess was just here for story time. Are you going to listen to the story, Jess? Okay, we're going to read a little bit more of Adam Kay's Anatomy, all about our body. Remember, we're learning about the lungs. Okay, if you've not listened to the other parts about the lungs, go back and listen to those first, because this is part 3. Okay, pollution. You know all about pollution, the muck that spews out of car exhausts and factory chimneys and aeroplanes, heating up the world and melting the ice caps. Actually, you probably know more about that stuff than me. I'm just the medicine guy. But pollution isn't just bad for penguins and polar bears, it's bad for us humans too. Pollution means that the air is full of tiny bits of dirt, and, you guessed it, this dastardly dust finds its way into our lungs. These little flecks are so small that they can escape the body's natural defences and cause you to cough and get short of breath. If you already have a condition that affects your lungs, like asthma, then pollution can make it much worse. And sorry, I don't really have any good news for you here. Breathing in pollution can have long-term effects on your heart and lungs. It's time for us to stop climbing into cars and get our bums on bikes instead. You breathe enough air in a day to fill about 1,000 balloons. Unless we're talking hot air balloons, that is. It would take you about a year to inflate one of those just using your breath, and you've probably got better things to do. Asthma. Asthma is the most common lung condition in the world. If you don't have it yourself, then I'm sure you know people who do. If you don't know anyone who does, then you probably live on your own in a swamp in the middle of an abandoned forest, because more than 5 million people in the UK alone have asthma. Asthma doesn't make it hard to breathe all the time. It comes and goes, but when asthma shows its face, this is known as a flare-up or an asthma attack. During an asthma attack, your airways swell, which means it's got harder for air to get into your lungs. Next time you got a straw, try taking a breath through it. You'll see it's much harder to breathe through a smaller hole. That's what asthma attacks are like. Now stop breathing through the straw and get back to your milkshake. Asthma can make your chest feel tight, cause you to cough, or give your breath a whistling sound known as wheezing. I can't tell you what causes asthma in the first place. This isn't just me being useless. Nobody knows, but it runs in families and often affects people who have other conditions like eczema and hay fever. People with asthma sometimes have things called triggers that make it flare up. This might mean dust, pollen, or animal hair. If that's the case for you, you might need to do things like change your sheets more regularly, have wooden floors instead of carpets, stay inside when the pollen count is high, and avoid animal hair. This means doing things like not letting animals into your bedroom. You don't need to shave your pets. Pippin just woofed a sigh of relief. Other triggers include exercise, cold weather, perfume, and eating mushrooms. Eating mushrooms is never a trigger, actually. When I was growing up, I just always wished there was a page in a textbook I could point to and prove to my mum that I shouldn't excuse me, Jess, that I shouldn't have to eat mushrooms. And now you have one to show annoying grown-ups. Jessie, don't. Oh, you tried to read them a story. Get off. So, now you have a page to show annoying grown-ups that you don't need to eat mushrooms. But really, he's only joking. Don't let them see this bit in brackets though, because it shows that it's not really true about the mushrooms. Asthma is usually treated with inhalers. I'm sure you've seen people use them at school before. There are lots of different types of inhaler. For example, the blue one that widens the airways if you're having a flare-up, and the brown one that you use every day to prevent the flare-ups happening in the first place. Then there's the big gold coloured one that bends round in an S shape and is covered in buttons and gets wider at the end. Oh no, hold on, that's a saxophone. Asthma doesn't stop you living your life. Famous athletes such as David Beckham, Paula Radcliffe and Mo Farah all have asthma. And so does the most handsome man in the world. Me, that's what the author thinks. Collapsed lung. Just like a bicycle tyre can spring a leak, sometimes the same thing can happen to one of your lungs. This is called a pneumothorax, which is quite a complicated word, so most of us just call it a collapsed lung. We don't really know why lungs decide to collapse, but it happens mainly to tall, thin boys. Perhaps it's revenge for them being good at basketball. A collapsed lung makes it difficult to breathe and causes sudden pain in one side of the chest, and it generally requires a trip to the hospital. Unlike a tyre, this can't be sorted out with a rubber patch and a bicycle pump. Jess, do you mind? Sometimes a collapsed lung gets better on its own. Sometimes you need an oxygen mask, and sometimes, stop reading this sentence immediately if you're squeamish, the doctors need to stick a needle into your chest to remove the air that has leaked out of your lung. Okay, that's enough for today. We'll read on and finish the chapter about lungs tomorrow. Okay, bye for now, Year 3.